Alright, so here I am in Triumph of Chaos. Second card play for each side. I'm looking through the white cards, and you really do have to read these a lot more than you do in many games. There's a lot of information on them. Say you feel kind of like the same kind of have to know the cards as you do in Paths of Glory in a lot of ways, but unlike Paths of Glory, I think there's enough randomness in these that maybe it's not quite as important. But then I come to this one, Support for Vandergults, and it's one of these ones, it enables a couple of cards, neither of which I'm sure what they do. Now, there's this kind of useful looking thing here, some sort of compendium of the cards. There's no explanation really of how to use it that I know of. Yeah, maybe there is in the rule book. It's labeled 20, so let's see. I didn't think... No, the rules stop at 16. So this is meant to be some sort of standalone. Unfortunately, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Maybe it's the historical order that these were played in. That doesn't make a lot of sense either because it's scrambled by year. What it's not in is in numerical order, so it's very difficult to figure out, to find the card you're looking for. Now, in this case, I find the one I'm looking for, which was 24, which is over here. Vanguard of Nazism. I know it's a one-use card. I'm assuming it has a value of 5, and it comes out in 1919. And then it says, individual or in combination, these cards can create quite a diversion. Well, it's an interesting statement. It doesn't tell me a lot about the card. I'm not sure I mind that, but it doesn't serve the purpose that I think some people would want in such a catalog of the items. Maybe there's something in the companion's guide. I don't know. But again, that didn't come with the game directly. I got it and have been using it. Herr Doctor was kind enough to answer some of my questions online, but I'm still kind of struggling with the, gee, what the hell to do, which is natural in this kind of game. When I read this, it doesn't sound terribly good. Now, I have the condition. The prerequisite is that the CP is neutral or better, and that's the case here. But then it costs me some shifts, or IPs, on Britain, France, the US. Estonia is going to automatically shift against me, and if it's not light controlled, it is. But then I roll a die, and maybe it'll shift again, and that doesn't have that disclaimer on it. Overall, Vandergults better be pretty damn good for that to work. That sounds like I'm losing a lot of potential value by playing that, so I'm a little leery of doing that. Otherwise, I'm looking, though, on the board, and there's nothing I terribly want to do. It's, I've got some forces down here, and maybe I could conglomerate and put some pressure on the reds there. That could be very valuable. I could get a city. Alternatively, do I have forces anywhere else? I have my Finns, which I would get an activation with from there. This might be better as its 4-point card. The Infiltration I can't play on this turn. This one allows me to play around with Polish influence. Now, the problem with that is... See, this is a one-time card. I get to either bonus myself with the Poles, with the Finns, which will move it a box in my favor, and then I get to move activate one space with a Finnish unit. By the way, those are red and white units up there. They're under my control right now, so I could use them. Or I could get some Cossack forces, but if I choose that option, I can't spend replacements this turn. And then the final one is this Don Caucasus or influence Ukraine. I could shift the Ukraine box one in my favor. Let's see where that is. Yeah, that's close to going to the red already. But the Don Caucasus would give me an army in the Don and some additional core. But then it's going to prevent me from playing this card anytime in 1918. And that's hard, but I think that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to build the Don troops up because I think I've got room for kind of an attack in this area. Now, what is my goal? I know there were some things somewhere, and I've got to look that up, that I kind of want to do. Now, obviously, taking Moscow is probably good, but I don't know what the effects of it are. But I think there were other things that were more important. Saratov, I remember being mentioned in the player's guide as you want to hit that, or something else. Voronezh. Oh, I believe that's here. So getting the Don out of there would be valuable for that. But what do I get out of it? I don't know. I'm going to have to read through all the rules, essentially skimming them to try to see if there's anything, unless there's some specific mention of what is up with them. Here I just have leaders. There don't seem to be any, special effects on the main factions in the game. There are these little cards for all the smaller factions that you can gain control of or whatever, and those are very useful. But I don't know where to find, the things that I might want to do out of the rules for, in particular, for example, why the player's guide suggests that these are very key. Is it just a matter of that's indicating that the whites are doing well, that they've gained another city? Or is it a threat to Moscow? Or do they have some special effects in and of their own status? And I have no clue at this point. These kind of things are burbled all over the place. For example, here in the miscellaneous rules, we have some. For example, I'm looking to see if I have more. I'm curious when infighting is triggered. By cards. Okay. Just to make sure, because not everything's by cards in this game. For example, here, the Don Cossacks may not move out of the Don and Kuban regions unless the white controls 4 VCs in these regions and Tsaritsyn. So obviously, if I'm going to make this attack, I have to not only take this, but I have to take Tsaritsyn. And then I'm free to try to push into one of those others. Now, what is important? I can't find anything about Voronezh or Saratov. So I think it's just a showing of the strategic implementation. I know once you kind of start winning, the game does snowball. I don't remember precisely the rules for that, but there are modifiers on charts that, well, for example, here in the Don Caucasus table, you roll for the units, and if white leads in victory points, they get a bonus there to prevent the units, to prevent the units from being simply destroyed by that. There are a lot of places where there are bonuses like that. So you want to get ahead in the points to get that snowballing. There's no balance of power type thing. It's not like you also get additional replacement points and IPs for capturing enemy territory. So that's a value too. So I'd kind of like to take things, not just for the victory points that I'm going to gain on the balance, but also for that snowballing, the set of snowballing effects that I can kind of see here. So, given all that, and my predisposition to do so, I'm going to play this Don Caucasus 4 and 5 an army, 4 and 5 corps, and Russian 9th Corps. Now, playing this for either event, and this is very much like Days of Decision, is going to eliminate this card. So I do one or the other. I either build up my Don Caucasus, and it makes sense. I either build up my Don Caucasus or I get some additional advantage over here in the Ukraine, which doesn't seem to be a big deal right now because there are Germans all over it, but it will be in the long run. Now this is going to prevent me from playing my initiative card for the remainder of the year. So that's kind of a factor, but I have to, you have to make trade-offs. So I'll set those troops up, and I don't get any activations for this. Oh, I'm back to the same problem I was in before. At one point, it was suggested that the stones are meant to mark the victory point cities. Okay, so I put them out there to help me. And, well, now I can count them easily. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 red stones. Not the 9 I expect. Now, this may be that these two that I wasn't sure what the hell to do with, but according to the rules seem to be red controlled, aren't. Because then when I count the white, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's also 2 off. I don't have this one anymore. I gotta look this up and try to figure out what the hell is up with it. Do the whites start out with Kronstadt and Onega? Or is there something that I'm missing here? And I'm not sure how to figure that out from the rules as they stand. Anyway, what we're seeing outside is this sort of concentration of forces in the white, and I was considering the possibility of doing a green uprising to try to throw some barriers to their advance down here. It looks to me like red doesn't really have a lot of ability to move and advance anywhere until they get more troops on the board. Now they do have some troops. They have these damn people's armies, which are not terribly effective. They're not bad. Well, no, they are bad. 4-2-2. The red army is good. The people's armies kind of suck, and I don't know. They're only allowed in this to be placed in the central region. So they might help with a counterattack, but there's also something about them being kind of suspect in terms of maybe there are cards that allow them to turn or something. Other choices that I have, none of them look like they're going to help my situation right now against the whites, but putting some green armies down here might force the whites to clean up the Don and Kuban areas. But I got to figure out those victory points now. I thought I had somehow magically managed to convince myself that I had the right count before. I didn't bother with the whites because I didn't want to push it too far. But yeah, it's not at all clear to me now. I should turn 1 in each direction. This is not a victory point city. I had a marble on it. And this is, and I didn't. All right, so now I'm at 3, 6, 7 for white, which is actually what I have recorded for them. I think that's correct. But I'm also at 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for red. My guess is Kronstadt is not one. Kronstadt can't even come into play. Let's see, 16 point. Let's see if I can read that. 16.43. My eyes ain't good enough to read that without jumping over the board, basically. 16.43. Let's see if there's something special. No units can enter it until play of a white card. So my guess is Kronstadt is not in the red home area to begin with. It's an island off in the Baltic, essentially, but right off St. Petersburg. And obviously it's not under red control to begin with. All right, so I think that's what we're going to go with. And now I'll probably play that green card. Let's just do it, because I think that's the best I can do. Now, this has no modifiers on it. This card doesn't get discarded. I roll a die, and basically I'm going to get to place a certain number of core in a home region. Now, what defines a home region? Would it be Don or would it be Kuban? or would it be Kuban and Don? I have to look that up to see. I think I want to put them down in Kuban because they are in supply no matter what. They might help me defend the Don area, but I don't know. They control the area, not red, if that's done. So I gotta get a red die in play. I'm gonna roll for Kuban because that includes the Crimea. It may be hard to figure out what I'm gonna do. Maybe I'll get a no effect. I get a 1. That's gonna give me 4 of them. That's all there is. So let's try to figure out what I can do with these suckers. Definitely seems worthwhile for me to kind of cut off locations here. Now there's going to be supply coming from here, but these guys will be cut off from supply by that play. Ooh, tasty. Elsewhere it becomes a little less interesting. Like, I have to put them in separate spaces. They can't be in a victory point space, so I can't cut this. So, I could cut supply out of here. Or, see, I only have 2 left, so I would need 3 to completely cut off all routes coming out of here. Whereas, if I drop one here, oh, what does that little anchor mean? Yeah, it's a port. Yeah, I can tell that. And no note in the index what a port may mean. Presumably some cards will affect ports. I don't know where to put this last piece. I better put it here. This is the other supply. There's supply cutting through from there. It's all good to cut this. Actually, these are the 2 important ones, not this one. However, putting this as a speed bump sounds valuable anyhow. So we got those, and those are regular core. They can be damaged. I don't know if they can come back. I doubt it. And that just goes in my normal discard. Now we're back to a white phase. And it's kind of interesting, you know, maybe my initial feeling about these, so I'm usually wrong about CDGs. I want to play all the cool events. It may be the right thing to do in this one, though. It's how you get troops. It's how you influence the political factions outside of the regular influence card. This is the kind of stuff that I kind of get wood over, essentially, in a game. Figuratively, of course. It's not that kind of game. There aren't even any sheep in it that I can see. And, but it definitely appeals to me to feel like I'm doing an okay thing by playing lots of events. Most CDGs, you know, you want to use the points for other things. I think that'll happen later in the game, and I think White's at the point where they want to do stuff rather than just throw events into play. But it definitely feels to me like this was the best move for Red at this point, and I feel like the concentration of force I've been getting with White has been kind of nice. Now, here's what I'm not sure of. I'm not sure who controlled this before, but it's too late now. I put a green unit in there, damn it. I think this was actually a red territory a moment ago. But like I said, this is primarily a speed bump. The reason being because this core switched sides from something. There were Russian core here. Oh, this one ran away, so this is still a red territory, actually. So I had better put a little marker there for that. Okay, well, I'm gonna play that 3-point infiltration card. The reason this is an initiative card, I'm not gonna be able to play this as an event for the year. I get a reshuffle in 1919 anyway. It's not a card I particularly want to hold now, so I've thrown it down. Oops. With a move and 2 combats, I want to put the pressure over here on this poor unit to get my advances. Tsaritsyn's an important goal for me because I need to get it in this to be able to expand outward with the Dons. Cool. I was trying to promise myself a drink and a cigar, but I want to finish up the turn. In detail still. As I get more and more comfortable with the game, I'll probably step away like I usually do anyway, but I'm hoping maybe, you know, some of the big fans of the game or whatever can point things out to me, as usually happens at games. So far nobody's stepped up. Maybe I was just too confused before to get any help at all beyond what Herr Doctor was able to give. There were just so many points of confusion. But I think I'm beginning to engage the wheels on this finally. All right. So for my move, well, this is fully stacked. I got room, however, for this to move into place. Now, I don't have a leader in either of these, but that should be okay. Let's look at what my modifiers are here. Without a leader, I can't do any of the special leadership things for the defender. So let's take these one at a time. I'll do this combat first. It looks to me like this is just normal terrain. There's not going to be anything from that. I don't have any elite steps here. I don't have anything else going on. It looks like it's an even roll. I've got a lot of strength here. I've got 9 strength points to 1, so I'm almost guaranteed to make this advance. It's going to be on the army table because there are armies involved. I may not want to bring this corps with me for the simple fact that I'm probably going to lose it. Right? A 1 attack is probably going to do some damage. But I kind of want it to be able to advance. You know what I could have done instead? I think I could have moved here. I think I can split my forces and grab this territory. But I'm going to get this anyway for free. I'll take the casualties. We'll see. Probably a dumb move. Okay, so white rolls a 5, and they have 9 strength points. So I decimate this thing. Red, though, rolls a 3, and they're able to take this. Now, because I eliminated them, I am, as is not surprising, able to advance into this space. And that's kind of cool. And now for this other combat, probably the same kind of thinking here, except I've got elite corps, elite factors here. I've got 1.5 elite factors. The greens obviously aren't elite. So 5, 7, 8 to 1. Again, I don't think there's any terrain. Eight is only on the 6 table. I wipe them out. 1 does 2 hits. I could take those hits on the elite corps, and that would be easier to replace than killing this corps entirely. And that still remains pretty potent. I'm going to take the 2 hits on the elite corps, and again, an advance. What I feel is taking some casualties, so I'm going to play a 4-point card to get some replacement points. I don't get them now. They'll come into play during the political phase. I can buy IPs with them if I don't take enough losses. I can also use them to bid leaders. Oh, jeez. I don't know if I'm doing things right. Like, I think a reinforcement card gives me a limitation, so I have to put that in play. White took a reinforcement back here. I don't know how many I'm allowed to do. I remember replacements and strategic movement maybe being an issue. I have to look that up. There's some kind of limitation, but looking over here through the action phase, I can't find it. It's not under replacement steps or strategic redeployment. It's not under replacement steps or strategic. This is basically a duplicate of what's here for no good reason. But I simply cannot find the limitation on the cards. I also looked through here in the basis. And it's got to be somewhere in the rules. I know I've read it. But I cannot find it. There's restrictions here, but that's activation of units. Oh, shit. White may not activate more than one space in a region except for one designated region. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. You know, I mean, there's just so many special rules everywhere that you've got to remember them all. But what sucks here is I remember the rule, but maybe it's here. Okay, it's not there. How about replacements, reinforcements? Reinforcement cards may not be placed in sequential rounds. Now, what about strategic redeployment? Does it say that? Because I've got the same kind of counter for that. Yeah, it would be helpful if it gave the restriction everywhere where it's of importance. Oh, here, you may not take this in sequential rounds. Okay, so it's in a different kind of location in this rule than it is on this rule. Yeah, it's not highlighted over here, but it's highlighted over here. That's the kind of issues that you see in these rules. There's no consistency in them. Things are kind of jumbled into weird places, and there's few reminders linking you to other things. Now, obviously, there's a link to these sections, but I would expect the restriction to be noted over here in the action phase segment. It would have only taken a line. There's tons of room here, or just a little asterisk in the off box or something. I don't know. Anyway, so what did I do that required something? Red did not do a reinforcement. White did one, but it was a while back, so that's not an issue either, so I don't have to mark those. So red was able to do what they wanted. They can do the replacements multiple times, I guess. Well, let me look. Maybe there's a restriction on replacements too. Reinforcement cards can't be played. Let's look under replacements. Replacements may not be played in subsequent rounds. So I don't have a marker for that. I have the reinforce. I'm going to play that here and try to remember that that's actually a replacement marker that I can't use. Unless maybe there's some other counter. There's all these. I don't know what these affect. But I don't think they're a big deal. And I still don't know what Poland's status is. Maybe that comes into play from all those random Poland tables. I don't want to read them until we start playing with Poland somewhat. No? What are these? Faction replacements. Okay. So you can get replacement points for the individual factions, or for the group of factions as well, which is something different that comes elsewhere, I guess. All right. On to white. The whites are going to continue with their expansive ways by playing this 4-point card, activating 3 combats here, just unleashing hell on this space. That may be overkill, but I've got a leader there, so I'm allowed to do it somewhere. What? I don't know who. That may actually allow me to get an exploit, which might get me Tsaritsyn or something. We'll see. And then over here, I'm also doing a combat. This was a harder choice. I kind of want to move into position to drive the Reds out of here, to drive Trotsky's force. But These greens are annoying. Now, I can't do much about this one, but this one I can get rid of. If another green activation card comes up, they could go seize a territory, a victory point city, which would be a real problem. So I'm going to resolve those combats. I'll come back afterwards. So the loss is 2 for the whites, which I'll allocate in a moment. But the interesting thing is 7 for the reds. So that's 2, 3, but, and then 4 for this. But in addition, I pull a core out of the strategic reserve. These matter. Oh, those are fins. I can't use them. So that was 2, 3, 4, and then this appears, and 5, 6 is also destroyed. And these all go into the dead pile. If I hadn't had a core there, the Red Army would have been destroyed permanently by that. And now I get to advance, and see, here's the problem. I may want to advance with Denikin because he's my leader and he's the guy who can exploit. Let me look up the exploitation rules and see if I'm going to want to do that. I don't think he's strong enough to do anything too valuable here. No exploit is possible. You need Cav for that to be done, I believe. Leader is present. And the Cav has to be present, and I do not have a Cav present in that attack. So I took this, and I also attacked this. In both cases, I took losses, though. So I may want to buy some reinforcement points for myself pretty soon. Or replacement points, as the case may be. Red cannot do that on their turn because of the little reinforcement marker there, which isn't quite what I want, but I don't have what I want. A big question with the Reds here. I have this concentration card, which is going to give me 2 activations if I play it for the event. I'm not sure how much I want to do in terms of activations anyhow. But if I play this, it really means that I want to play this as a replacement step card. I can't play a replacement step now and then make my decision later because I played a replacement on the last turn. I think that's what I'm going to do. I don't know what my activations are going to be. Another option would be to take my free special activation because I've only got 2 plays left. One could be a card for something. The free special activations would allow me to do some neat stuff. I haven't gone into these yet. But among the neat stuff that I can do is I can activate Trotsky and flip the unit on a 1 to 3. That's an activation. That's a replacement point that essentially I get. But he hasn't taken that much damage. I was kind of thinking, well, if the whites are going to attack me, I'd do that, but they haven't done so. Other options, propaganda might get me a no action counter, which then causes a problem for the whites where they have to remove that marker before they can do anything. So essentially they're going to have to take one of these special actions if they want to, say, launch an attack on Trotsky. That's intriguing. It would let me hold, say, this 4-point concentration card, and I could still play this for replacement points. As to rebuilding units, well, there aren't a lot. So I've got restrictions as to where I can build my replacements, but I can throw some of them into ICs and gain some advantages that way and try to rebuild my armies as well. Let's see what else I could do here. Semenov and the Japanese army. So the problem here is I'm trying to do something kind of at random, and I can't tell which one I'm going to get, whether it's, good or not. There's no modifier that helps me here. That's kind of annoying. I'm not trying to get rid of infighting. I could throw a revolt, but there are no subjugated factions, so no, I can't. I could try to do a green activation. I have this army. I could grab that thing, eh? That's an interesting idea. Or I could sortie my fleet. I wonder what that does. 16.73. That doesn't sound like a particularly valuable action. I think the no action is the thing I really want to do. Here it is. Only in 1919. Alright, so that's out of the effect there. Jeez. Now what happens if I play this thing? It gives me activations. It doesn't give me activation points. So all I'll be able to do is these operation activations. Do I have two things I want to do? You know, I think the best thing I can do is the green activation. I didn't realize that was going to be so easy to pull off. Part of the chaos. And if I can find the rules for it. Yep, this is how you play. I don't have a lot of green spaces to activate here. 2, 3, or 4. Or 1 through 4. I get to activate one green space. Jesus. Hey, this is the problem. I don't know what the hell to do. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the no action, the attempt at the no act. Now this is the only special action I'm allowed with red at this point. What shall I pick? Yeah, that's kind of hard to choose. I got 3 armies near me. One of them's got a leader. You know, I just don't think I'm going to be able to stop this attack. If white wants to do it. I'm going to go for the green activation instead. And I get it. And I can move. 10.1. I think that's only affecting red units though. And these are green. This marks the road when red attempts to cross. It must roll a die. Well, this isn't red. Oh, I only have 1 movement point. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to cheat and say I didn't roll for that. Alright. How about I bring reinforcements in play instead? Okay. I'm going to do my concentration. That's going to give me the ability to build things up in central. And I'll activate this space for movement. And we'll get Stalin. Yeah. Let's bring him down to help Trotsky. That should be fun. Alright. So that's going to be my 2 activations. And I'll leave this here so that I remember I have a concentration. I don't think there's any counter for that. There are all kind of little informational counters in a lot of these games, but I don't see one there. And then let's see, I've got 3 movement points. What's the special rule on rails? Jesus, I don't remember any of this shit. Let's go look up the movement rules. And yes, it would have helped if I read through the rules well in my intro. The rails help with SR, and they help with some other things. It looks like otherwise I'm allowed to move there. So I'll move. Ooh, that's not a very big movement. 1, 2. Kind of like to be supporting him here, but I'll leave 2 units there to protect that crossing. Now, is there a bridge crossing there? It's hard to see. It doesn't look like it. It looks like there's a river, but no bridge. Alright, and then my other move is Stalin down here, who I'll be able to take replacements for him. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, we'll move him down there. And he's accumulated a powerful little force to face them in that area. And that gets me over to here, and now I don't have to worry about this anymore. There are a lot of options for white holding this final card. Could have spent it for replacement points, which probably is the wisest idea, but I feel like I have a current tactical advantage, so I'm launching a major assault here. Other options where these diplomatic actions, especially the white Finnish offensive, looked interesting because I could gain the Finns towards my direction. I could make an action down here to position myself closer into play for taking Helsinki down here, which is, I'm not gaining much here yet. And then finally this Cossack support could give me some Cossack troops. But I've gotten enough troops. I don't want to throw this card out, though. It's a good valued card, and part of these CDGs is often keeping your good valued cards in here when I've got something good to do with it, which is launching this attack. And I'll be moving Krasnov, who's a Cav leader. That'll allow me to maybe get Cav surprise. I don't know that I need that. But if I do get away with it, that's cool. Because I think it allows me to fire first. Well, it looks kind of dangerous, actually. About equal chances either way. If I get Cav surprise, that means what? Then I fire without taking fire. If I don't get it, I lose a Cav. I might lose a Cav stop. It's a hard call there. But let's see what we move. So I'm going to leave this army in place. Do I want to get a corps up there? Yeah, I already have one in place. I'll move a corps up to here. Now, here's the thing. I have a combat ordered here and a combat ordered here. I might be able to hit this stack. I mean, I'm capable of it. And this one. And really start putting the pressure on there. Does that get me any advantage? Yeah, this isn't a road, this is a river. The terrain is difficult for me to see. This guy's off here blocking that. Let me think a little bit about it. Especially if I can get that first fire off, that'd be cool. Guts, no glory. Denikin's going to attack with these two stacks. And I have 10 strength points facing 5 under Lenin. Now Lenin may not want to take this attack. Denikin's pursuit is only a 3. Trotsky's withdrawal is a 3. If I fail to withdraw, I get a worse defensive bonus. Is there any, or a worse defense? There's no real bonus to this, which means Denikin's not going to be able to get as much strength on this hex, though, if he pursues. I'm going to attempt to withdraw with Trotsky. I need a 3 or less. I don't get it, and that's going to give Trotsky a penalty in this combat. So now we're at 10 to 5. That gives a combat modifier of +1 to the attacker. I don't have any initiative card or anything like that. There's no defensive... Oh, there's a bridge here. Oh, I wanted to defend here anyway. Oops. Okay, so there's a bridge. So that's going to be a shift to the left on the attacker. So let me think what we got here. He said +1 but he's going to drop down to the 6 table. And I roll a 7 on there. That didn't help much. Both sides are going to take 5. That's going to give an advantage to the defender. That could give me a counterattack possibility, but I'm not going to take that because I'm outnumbered. So I'll take the losses. On this other battle, I've got Cav, and I'm going to... Oh, jeez. I don't have a core with me. This is all I can have. I have only 7 strength points against 6, which is effectively even. So I'm going to try that surprise roll because I have, who's there? Krasnov. Let's see what he looks like. On the bonus, I'm not facing anything. So all I might get is the exploit off this. And that exploit could actually get me in here, which is why Trotsky wanted to retreat. Alright, let's see if I get the Cav bonus out. I do not. I lose a step. Oh, that's harsh. And that means I'm at 6 to 6. By the way, there were elite forces on both sides of equal numbers on that other battle. There are no elites here, so 6 to 6. That looks like I'm just at even on that battle. I don't think there's any terrain there. And I cause 4, they cause 3, so I'm going to win the battle, which means I get to push them out. Maybe I get an exploit. I could just take core losses, or alternatively, I could weaken this thing. I'm going to take all my losses on the core, I guess. I'm not sure what makes more sense. I have to retreat. I'll push into there, I guess. See, here's the problem. If I don't retreat to here, if I retreat here, I give this up and kind of cut Trotsky off, and I don't want that to happen. Assuming there's an exploit. So we march forward. Ooh. See, we have a problem here, which is that we'd be opening ourselves to being cut off if we move into there. Now I could have called off this attack instead. I'm gonna move my Cav alone forward. I'm not sure that's the best choice. He's kind of exposed there, but we'll see. And that gives it over to the Reds. And now the Reds have a hard choice on their side. Do they need to try to defend themselves better? Or do they need... And I have a +2 on Voronezh for defending that. Or do I need to worry more about getting my replacement points? You know, I set myself up with this concentration card so that I would get replacement points. Now, I'd be able to build troops in here, but then the worry is I could be cut off conceivably back here. I don't know if there are enough white troops and enough white actions to do that. So I'm going to go with my original plan, and I'm going to buy myself 3 more replacement points. I don't know if that penalty between rounds extends beyond turns. I'm going to have to look to see if that's the case. Seems odd if it does, but it's hard to tell. Look to attrition of units and spaces. This space converts over to a white space at that point. It's all just pretty much a mechanical thing. If you can't trace a supply line, it falls. I think that's the only space that converts over. I don't need a marker there. That's not connected. POC maps are POS maps, in my opinion. There's not a subjugation. No factions are conquered. So now we adjust the victory point total. Now, assuming this is right, red's going to get 2 victory points on the chart. And this is kind of like a twilight struggle. It's a balanced number of points that just swings one way or the other. With 30 being the ultimate victory. So there's no automatic victory, I know that. Logistical inefficiencies, 14.8. What does that do? Okay, that's if Seminole or the Japanese are in play. And this is... You know, why I didn't do it, it probably benefits red a little bit here, because it takes 2 or 1 from the whites, 1 from the whites and the reds here, and 2 from the reds here. But it seems so random to waste an activation on that, unless there's some good reason that you think you're hurting the other person's replacement points. And the fact that white doesn't have any replacement points means that that's no big deal, I think. But now we hit the replacements and reinforcements. And I've got to kind of look through the player's guide for the errata in this section, because I just noticed I didn't get to all of that, or I didn't get to that area. Red reinforcements entered flipped unless a leader is present, stuff like that has all been added. These aren't really errata, like I said. This is more we've decided to rewrite the rules in some ways because we want the game to be better. And, you know, when I can figure out where they belong in the rules, that's cool. I wasn't able to do that when I first went through. Maybe I'll be able to with more of them now. But I know that somewhere around this rule, a little before it, I was saying, you know, I'm finding I can figure out half of these, what they mean and where they apply. But the other half, I can't figure out where they belong in the rules at all from the way it's described. And then we'll come back and do that. And that's sort of the last thing in the... Well, I think my... pages stuck together, and that's why I was missing some of the errata. I think I flipped 2 pages at once on the errata when I was recopying, because there was a place where they came back into line. Okay. Or maybe I just scatterbrained around there. So let's see what we can repair. Right now we have a bunch. 7 replacement points. Now there are some bonus replacement points that come. For example, if you take victory cities, if you own certain areas, the Tsar gives you some, all kind of stuff here. The Ukraine is like really wealthy in victory points, in replacement points generation, not just for the Ukraine, but also for whoever controls them, the territories and the factions. Just a very rich area for fighters, according to the errata. So we looked at the logistical inefficiencies. That didn't take place. We have no infighting. What I have to do is I have to figure out how many steps I want to build. My concentration says I can build them wherever the hell I like, and that's very helpful. For one thing, I would like to improve these. Now, armies cost 1 step each, so that's 1 replaced army step. But now, other things that I'm replacing that aren't on the board are over, in my dead pool. Those have to go in home victory point centers. And that's kind of tricky. I have a home victory point center here where I could throw a core, but core actually are replaced. I have room for a core, but core are replaced into the SR always. I have to do strategic movement to get more core on the map. And that is kind of a weird thing to do in terms of, you're spending action points to do that. And when you do a strategic reserve, somewhere or another there's a chart. It's in the rule book, but here it is as well. That, based on the value of the card, how many units you can move using strategic reserve. And they move along the rail lines. Okay. And yeah, we're getting the rules kind of piecemeal here. Well, I definitely want these armies on the board. And again, the concentration lets me build these. That cost me 4 more. Now I got 2 left. I could replace some core points, or I could use these to buy myself a leader. Ooh. There are bunches of leaders available to me somewhere. There they are. And I'd be paying the counter cost for the leader, which is kind of a shame because that's not actually listed on here on the card. So I can't look through the cards and try to figure out how much I'd be able to get a leader for. But let me see, do I have any that have P's on them? I should. Well, I assume the NCs count as P's as well. So that's a possibility as well. But unless there's somewhere where I really feel a need for a leader or a leader I really want, let's see if any of these have any special abilities here. Certainly not the new ones. Okay. He has a special rule here with 10.213. He modifies propaganda. White propaganda is going to be tougher against him. That's kind of neat, but that doesn't really excite me. As to leadership values, well, he's got a nice pursuit rating, but overall, that's a very tough thing for me to choose, just in terms of how I think. I don't feel like I'm deathly in need of a leader. On the other hand, I feel like influence points are more valuable than anything else. I still have lots of core in my strategic reserve. I'm not running low on that, so I don't feel any great compulsion to pick those up. So what if I use my remaining points over here somewhere? I don't know where it is. Attempted influence point purchase on this chart, and we'll see what I get. Now the Tsar is alive, and that's not going to help me. I'm leading in VCs. That gives me a +1 to the die roll, which means I'm likely to get at least as many as I want. I'm not infighting, so that's not going to affect me. So I get a 7, so I actually get 3 IPs from this. Okay. Poochie COA map. The map is, these are always so wonderful in terms of the texture, but they have a high pooch factor, which you can kind of see here. I remember that from the Battles of the Age of Reason, which was a bit of a pain in the ass itself, in terms of the rules at least, and the fiddliness of the design. But you know, you're paying a cost for that, and if you play with plexi or something over it, well, you don't get the wonderful texture of the map, which is what's so lovely about it, and the sturdiness means less and everything like that. Unfortunately, I don't think you can iron these things. Okay, so how much am I allowed to put where? There's this optional mini rule. I don't want to play with that. So I can place no more than 2 per faction. So I'm getting 3 of these. And I gotta find the IP markers. They're kicking around in here somewhere. There they are. So here's the problem. These all say either 2 or 3. There are no 1s. I don't know why that's the case, but I'm going to use a 2 point for that, and I'm going to use a blank for a 1. I'll figure out places that I particularly want to concentrate on. I think the Ukraine is very important, but right now the Ukraine is still controlled by the Germans. I don't know if that's terribly vital to my current situation. What about Poland? Oh, there's all kinds of special rules about Poland. On the other hand, I should have troops in the Transcaucasus. Shouldn't I? No, there's Turks there. Okay, gotcha. This is Turkestan down there. Doesn't seem to be anything there. Astrakhan would be useful to me in maybe deflecting things. Let's see where that is. Astrakhan's at neutral. Let me see what the card says, whether or not I can get troops in Astrakhan. Indeed get troops in Astrakhan, but I'm actually more interested in Finland right now. I'm going to put 2 points there. I feel like the white's ignoring Finland, and that's sort of my opportunity. If I can get Finland red on its own, or get those additional Finnish armies to support the red attack, I might be able to take Mannerheim out. And then I'm going to put the other one over in Astrakhan, which again may not be the most advantageous places for these, but this is just, you know, me piddling around trying to figure out what I'm doing. I think that's the end of a turn, to tell you the truth. And yes, it's been a very, very long path, not just, you know, on video, but for me flipping through the rules consistently. But let's see. That. Yeah, I think that's all that I do here. So, a second long video for this turn, but then we move this forward. And in answer to my question, if I didn't mention it before, I'm leaving this round marker up there. I see no indication that those don't carry over between rounds. And either way, it's not a huge deal, but I think that the restriction should be in play. All right, what are we moving into? We're moving into summer of 1918. And we have different card positions, etc., which are actually spelled out here on these. I find the chart easier to read, but you don't need to page through the rule book if you're willing to look on there. All right, let's send this up.